Okay. Okay, good luck. I want to share with you an incredible story. In the last couple of weeks, I've been doing stories which are from a couple of centuries ago, but I want to share with you a more current story, very, very relevant story to what we just learned about today in the Torah portion of the splitting of the Red Sea. We learned about how the Jewish people are in an impossible situation, and they don't know what to do, and everyone's arguing about the next step. And then there is this man, Nachshon ben Aminadav, who has this sense of mission and this connection to Moshe Rabbeinu, so that when Moshe Rabbeinu says travel forward, he can actually hear Moshe Rabbeinu say this. While everyone else is wondering what to do, he's traveling forward. He knows that he has to go towards Mount Sinai. He knows that's the direction to go. Doesn't matter that the sea is in his way. Doesn't matter if there'll be a mountain in his way. Moshe says to go in this direction, and because of his steadfast and resolute trust in Hashem and in Moshe Rabbeinu, God made the miracle of the splitting of the Red Sea. So on that note, I want to share with you a more current story, a story of miraculous recovery of Rabbi Shalom and Yehuda Hertzel. They're actually spent some time in Los Angeles as well, and got to know many of the Chabad emissaries who live here locally. In 2013, Rabbi Shalom Hertzel went for examination, and in a fraction of a second, his whole world felt like it was crashing down on him, because this doctor called him in and said that your tests came back and you have cancer, Islam. So he was, at that time, he's a Chabad emissary in Ramat Golan in Israel, and he really was at the height of his career. He was doing so much, and he was so active, and so much was going on. And all of a sudden, he had to deal with this disease. And he said that he was in such pain in his head, and such strong headaches, they needed to take so much painkiller that he had to make so much painkiller that he was confused and he couldn't think. And it was really, really bothering him, not just the pain, but the confusion of having to deal with such a sudden dramatic illness, and beyond the illness itself, the painkiller. And so one friend of his calls him up, who doesn't really know too much about his situation, doesn't know what he's dealing with, and he asks his friend. And his friend asks him, "Tell me, how's it going?" And he tells his friend, it's difficult and it's complicated. So his friend, who was also a Chabad emissary, he says, "Who gave you permission to talk like that? How dare you talk like that?" He says, "You remember I sent you yesterday something the Rebbe said?" The day before, he had sent him a very short letter. The Rebbe wrote to someone how you have to always maintain your trust in Hashem. And they were told someone that they should study 3 or 4 times Shar B'Tachon. They should study Shar B'Tachon, duties of the heart, gate of trust, 3 or 4 times. And they were commented and said that we talk about faith, but then when it actually comes to having faith, people say, doesn't mean me. It's not about me. So that's what his friend said, and it sort of gave him a patch. It gave him slapped him. It was like cold water that was poured on him. But it was said it was healthy for him. It helped him. And of course, his friend had no idea what he was saying, who he was talking to. He didn't know what he was dealing with. But at that moment, this Chabad rabbi, this emissary, who was always devoted to his mission and spreading Torah and Judaism, he suddenly felt that this was part of his mission, that he wasn't just sent to spread Torah in Ramat Golan, but this, he told his wife and he told his family, this is part of our mission. If this is happening to us, the Rebbe teaches us that every time Hashem sends you a challenge, it is just that, it's a challenge, and that we have to discover our inner strength to deal with it. And that's what the challenge is meant for. It's meant for us to bring out our inner strength. And we're going to approach this, that this is part of our mission. That's what he told his wife. He told it to his wife while they were on a plane to Florida, where he was going to get, he had no choice, he had to go to Florida, he was going to get extensive treatment. The Rebbe had written a letter to someone else in a very similar situation. Letter goes something like this. You write that you have to go to the United States to receive medical treatment. So it's obvious that if you're being sent to the United States, it's not just for medical treatment, it's also because God guides the steps of man for a mission, that what man's meant to do. And therefore you should spread the wellsprings of chassidus to the men, women, and children in the place that you're going to. And the faster and the more alacrity you have in doing your mission, the faster you'll be able to return back to Israel. So he took this not just literally and personally, but with his full integrity and with his full heart and soul, and not just of himself, but his whole family, that this is what their life is about. This is what Hashem has placed them. They're not stopping their mission. Their mission has changed direction. They are shluchim, they're emissaries of the Rebbe, and they have something that has to get done. But it's not in Ramat Golan at the moment, it's in Florida. And they connected with the community in Florida, and they showed up for whatever it was that they were needed for. It didn't matter what they were asked to do, they showed up for whatever it was, because they had this clear sense of mission. He put it this way. People think it's from non-Jewish sources, but it's a teaching of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said, don't ask what you need, ask what you're needed for. This same Rabbi Shalom ber Hertzel, when he was a child, he was once in an audience with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked him if he speaks Yiddish. He says, yes, I speak Yiddish. Then the Rebbe started asking him what he's learning. He says, I'm learning Lech Lecha, the Torah portion where God tells Avram to leave his father's house. So the Rebbe asked him, do you know what Lech Lecha means? He didn't, but he knew the context of Lech Lecha, so he guessed, and he made up a new interpretation of Lech Lecha. He says, Lech Lecha means get out. So the Rebbe smiled broadly, and that was his moment with the Rebbe. And he thought that this exchange really has a message for him in his situation, that if you do indeed enter this kind of a situation of such confusion, you need to get out. You need to get out of the feeling of being a victim and feeling trapped and feeling like that your life is meaningless and you just sit all day and sleep all day because you're in pain. He has to feel that wherever he is, whatever is going on, it's part of his mission. That's why it's happening. And I mean, this kind of an attitude. Obviously, we're talking about someone who's a very giant spirit to be able to have this while he's enduring such incredible pain. He said, "You can't imagine the pain I was going through. You can't." But at the same time, he said, "I was charged. He had a soulful attitude to what was going on day after day with all the chemo, all the treatments, and all the operations that he went through. He felt very soulful in all of this entire experience. It was painful in body, but his spirit was very strong. And many doctors didn't have too much hope for him. But miraculously, Baruch Hashem, he survived. And not only did he survive, but after he recovered, he returned back to his post in Ramat Golan. And as the Torah says in this week's Torah portion, God says, I promise you that all of the disease that I placed upon the Egyptians, I will not place upon you. And the Talmud explains that when God heals you, he heals you in a way that that the illness is not noticeable at all that it ever happened. And that's how he felt. That's how he was physically. He was completely recovered. And when he came back to Ramat Golan, he was so strong and so animated that he began doing new things he never did before. One of the things that he started doing was this program called Parsha and Music. And he invited all kinds of musicians to come to his home, and they would learn the Parsha, and they were professional musicians, and they would play music, and he would teach Chabad melodies, and they would play the melodies on their instruments, and it was very popular and very exciting, and he was able to reach a lot of different villages in Ramat Golan that he never knew before, and it was really, really going well. It was going so well that Chabad headquarters in Israel actually sent Rabbi Naftali Lipsker to go visit him, see what he's doing, so other guys should learn how stuff can get done in other places as well. So Rabbi Lipsker actually visited him last year after Passover, and he is driving with him. He was at this time after Passover last year. His son Yehuda told he was about to get into the car, and all of a sudden he felt such pain in his head, and his little boy Yehuda started to throw up. So he's told his son, "My son, we're going now to Schneider Hospital in Israel." They go to Schneider Hospital. They do the exams, and the next day, I'm not sure the exact day, but shortly afterwards, Rabbi Lipsker arrives, and he's driving with Rabbi Lipsker. His wife calls him, and she asks him, "Are you driving?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "Please, can you pull over to the side?" He pulls over to the side, and again, the heavens crash upon him. The doctors said that his son Yehuda has a growth in his brain, not just a large growth, but a very large growth, and not just, it wasn't only a large growth, but it was affecting him not just painfully. The boy says the story himself, how much pain he was in, but not only was it so painful, but the doctors said that every moment it's getting more and more dangerous, and it's reaching his heart. The illness is affecting his heart as well, and he needs to get immediate treatment. So he and his son, of course, had a father-son heart-to-heart talk. And this boy, he addresses all of his friends and all of his family who made all good resolutions and prayed for him. He made a little video of himself telling them how he trusts in Hashem, how things are going to be okay, everything's in God's hands, and he hopes and he's sure that he's going to get better. The video went viral. And people all over the world are making good decisions. And the boy says how much strength he got from people making these prayers on his behalf, making these good decisions, the mitzvahs on his behalf. And he had to actually come here to California to do various operations here. And he said, this boy says he feels like he is a shliach here in California. He's an emissary of Hashem here in California. That's why he's sent here. He's not sent here because of just the operations. He feels that this is why he's here. And while he was here in California, they made, again, to the Parsha music, and they made events. And throughout this whole time, very musical, there was one song that they especially loved. And the song, I think the song dates back to the time of the Mittler Rebbe. It's an old Hasidic melody. The song means God's wrath lasts but a moment. At night, I go to sleep crying, and in the morning, I wake up with song. And the song David HaMelech says in this entire chapter of Tehillim, how Hashem suddenly transforms things from agony and mourning to absolute joy. You transformed my sackcloth to dancing. You transformed my eulogy to dancing. You opened up my sackcloth and you filled it with joy. So this was the way that they approached why they were here. They're here because they're on a mission. They are shluchim. They're with the Rebbe. They're not here by themselves. And as the Rebbe said clearly, that when a Jew has a test, he has to approach this with just that. It's a test meant to summon inner strength and more trust in Hashem, and that's how they approach it. Unbelievably, God should not test us, but they a second time dealt with the same exact scenario, and Baruch Hashem, his boy is actually 100% fine today. They went back, Baruch Hashem, to Ramat Golan, and all the musicians, all their friends, they again went back to their music and parsha, but it's not the same music and parsha there was before. There's a new energy, a new happiness, a new feeling, and it's contagious and it's growing. And it's growing with this neshama energy of the sense of shlichut, the sense of mission, and the sense of trust in Hashem that they only were able to experience because of the great, incredible challenges that no one wishes upon themselves. But that's what brought this new kind of energy. And now, Baruch Hashem, father and son are together in Israel and celebrating Parshas B'Shalach as we are. Anyways, that's the story I wanted to share tonight. Any questions, comments, or anything else?
Yeah, you forgot to record.
It's on Facebook. It's recorded. Don't worry. All right. Okay. Good luck, JJC Asset Management. Good luck, Yehuda.